the starting point. When we think about what it will mean to live to 100 years, we have to let go of something that we've held quite dear as individuals, as a society, certainly as corporations and organizations managing workforces, and that is the phenomenon of the three-stage life. In previous generations, certainly the person at work lived a three-stage life. They started in education until around 18 or 20, then made a big step into the workforce in their early 20s, and then moved into the final third stage of retirement when they're in their late 50s, early 60s. Nice 3 stages. That meant that whenever someone was looking at their future, they could have a broad outline of what that might look like in terms of big, discrete stages. It meant that organizations, so talent leaders like yourselves, business leaders, recruitment agents, could also understand broadly where people would be at various points in their life in those 3 stages, operating generally in lockstep with their peers. But what have we been doing with this 3-stage life? Well, as life expectancy has increased, we've added all of those extra years to the 3rd stage. Every extra year of life expectancy we have gained in the last 100 years has broadly been added to that 3rd stage of retirement. And now we're at a position where years retired and years worked are in a 1-to-1 ratio pretty much. If you work from your early 20s into your 60s, and then retire from 60 till around 100, that's a 1-to-1 ratio of working life to retired life. But of course, we've added all our extra years to that 3rd stage, and now we're at a bit of a breaking point. So how do we manage this? Well, my hypothesis is that actually we're going to break up those 3 stages in a way that actually is so much better for all of us. Will lead to much happier, much more fulfilled, much healthier 100-year lives. We're going to have many more stages, and we're going to start seeing those 3 discrete stages as actually threads woven throughout our life. Education being something that isn't front-loaded necessarily, but that we see over and over again throughout our lives. Likewise, work won't have a hard start and a hard stop at 60, 65, but actually will extend much longer, perhaps into our 70s, maybe even 80s. But also that retirement block, that bit at the end that we're all working towards, to one day stop working, will stop being this golden point. Instead, we'll weave that leisure time throughout our working lives. So my first suggestion is that we need to think about how do we anticipate what skills will be really valuable to us in the future? Why will someone employ me in 5 years' time? So that means thinking about the industry you're in. How are skill sets changing? How are jobs changing? And as employers, how can you give that message clearly to people in your industry and in your organization, or at least give them a view of 1 or 2 years ahead? This is where we see jobs growing in our company. Here's where we see jobs diminishing. Because there is a lot of anxiety at the moment we can see in the data around workforces and future employment, but really the clarity needs to be about how can they map out the next couple of years? What can we tell you about the next couple of years of your career here? The second point then around productivity, how do we maintain that or build that throughout our life, is time for learning. We're really good at learning at the very beginning of our lives. We're great on graduate schemes. Then something happens in the middle, nothing. And then if you make it to be on the board or the executive committee, if you're marked out as a high potential, you might get a bit more training then. But there's something in the middle that doesn't seem to be happening, which is this continual learning. And a lot of clients come to us and say, well, we've got a learning platform, they're just not using it. We brought them on, and in the interview, they said they were really curious about loads of new skills, they're just not doing it. Often it comes down to things like time codes, logging your time. Also, it comes down to the signaling of what really is valued in the organization. So when we think about learning, what are the signals that we're sending out as employers about how important learning is? And how much are we doing of it ourselves? So I think always really easy to see what your life actually looks like rather than what you tell your friends it does, is look at your Outlook or your diary and just think, what does my life look like over the last 4 or 5 months? Have I really made any time for learning, for investigating something new, something different? Or have I just been delivering constantly?